Okay. So, what are some spiritual challenges? Um. So, I spoke earlier about like we're gonna use the term going into the box, and again, I got to give credit to my sister Winnie Jackson. She said,
Shalom, sis.
we were born spiritual, and then we make a choice to move ourselves into some type of spiritual system or religion or whatever you want to name it, right? And for me, I've always been a seeker. You know, I did a 20-year military career, and you got to gonna see, at the time you see him with a Bible, a Quran, a Bhagavad Gita, a Tao Te Ching, all different types of scriptures because I was seeking. I was constantly seeking, and then I settled, or I saw something that resonated with me on another level, and I put aside everything else, and I went in. But I can't say I really put aside everything else because it was always there. I kept seeing the connectivity between everything, and as I'm put in a position to teach others, you know, they have questions, so you have to go look for answers. And in looking for answers, it started showing me that wait a minute, everybody doesn't really even agree on this. And everybody is creating their personal perspective of how we are all standing. We may all have the same book, but each individual that's reading that book is getting a different understanding, even though they may be saying, yeah, preach, teach. But when they go home, the truth of their understanding plays out in the reality. And understanding that, and I use the word consciousness because all consciousness mean is awareness or awakeness, if you want to say that. You're conscious of something. Consciousness starts to expand. And as your consciousness is expanding, you're dealing with people that it's nothing wrong with them, and it's nothing wrong with you, but you don't understand what's happening to you. And in certain terms, it's called spiritual awakening. You could have one or you could have several over a lifetime. And when spiritual awakenings happen, your consciousness starts to expand. So I found myself in teaching, I'm trying to take all of these concepts and ideas that really cannot be contained and trying to contain them in one particular social construct or box. And it started to become, I started to suffer. I didn't know I was suffering, but it started to be, I used to sit in my vehicle and meditate before I actually came and did service. And a lot of people didn't really know that. You know, people may think that you know, from the outside looking in, oh, he might be losing my mind. I'm losing his mind. My daughter passed in 2018. It was things that actually, how do you say it? Synchronicity started happening and it started playing out. And I didn't know. But when I started to step aside or step away from the assembly, it was kind of like my wilderness period. And now things started opening up. So I would say that the difficult part was to leave that because I loved everybody that I taught that was in the assembly. It's like you're trying to deconstruct a program that you were actually put on yourself. And even to this day, sometimes I sit and like, am I doing the right thing? It's still questions. But then I have to look at, since that point, the people that I've met, the lightness of my heart, the non-judgmental perspective that I had when I deal with other people, the acceptance that I have for other people. And not to say I agree with everything people do. It doesn't have anything to do with me. It's allowing them to do, as long as they're harming no one, they're not physically harming anyone. And I can only do what I can do to change the situation. If I don't do anything, that's on me, not on them. So yeah, it's going through that spiritual awakening. And again, this is what I said in the Who Was Fourth Principle. It's realizing that, wow, it was so many other people out there like going through the same thing I'm going through. And it actually, a lot of people it happened to around the same exact time. It was right before COVID and during COVID. So yeah, that was the most difficult time, is letting go of my family and you know, I didn't really lose anything. I gained a whole lot more.
Right. Wow. For me, I think mine's is really in cycles. Even from a teenager years or grown up years. And what I did with those suppressing them, I really just suppressed it. When something came to me, I just suppressed it. I understood being Israelite back in the 80s, but I suppressed it. I didn't go search. I didn't go find that thing because I'm doing me, or what we would say I'm doing me. Then when it came back around, it really kind of made me like, it really just snapped something inside me like, yo, no, you pay attention this time. So I went that route. Even before that, I was meditating way before that because I was into martial arts. I was doing these things, but at a time, then you suppress it. I don't need that. But as my journey had begun, maybe about well, no, my journey begun before that, but 5 years ago, or maybe 4 years ago, one of my teachers, he started seeing something different. And I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? So me not getting with the brother, I'm saying, you know what, I'm going to see what he talking about. I'm going to read that. So I went and read some things and looked into other cultures. And what I realized was, yo, it's saying the same thing my books say, that I'm reading every Shabbat day or every day. I say that's what I got in my consciousness at that time. I'm like, man, this thing's saying the same thing. Hold up. So do everybody have the same thought process, just with different words?
Mm.
That's the first thing that came to my mind, and that's what I had to really like deal with. And I was like, but like you say, dang, am I doing it wrong? Mm-hmm. Am I doing it wrong? Then I'm thinking, okay, then it started thinking, oh, am I an Israelite? Well, hold on. Maybe I'm indigenous maybe I'm an Indian. All these things came to play. But the thing was, I kept searching, and kept researching. And then once we had those sessions, in those sessions, then I really, really understood. Then it really clicked to me. Like, no, I get it now. We're all that. We've forgotten.
Got amnesia.
And I'm like, man, and it was mind blowing to me. I don't know about nobody else, but it was mind blowing to me. It was like, wow, I get it now. But the thing was, how I handled it, I just kept searching, kept going until I said, that's what it is. And now I understand my purpose here, what I need to do while I'm here. So.
We gonna skip me. Go ahead, Malak.
Oh, you opting out of this question?
You just need some more time.
Phrasing my thought.
Yeah, let him get it together.
All right.
You know, he's the youngster of the crew.
So this is I'll say this is a very unique question for me. But naturally I had to write a few things down, but
Read.
so initially what I had, what a challenge was for me was, finding meaning and purpose in what I was doing. When I was younger, I validated what I did through other people's reactions. And it wasn't until I got, till I actually started, thinking on my own, if that's what we want to say. And I'm like, because even when I did that, right, there would be things that came up. There would be discussions that were had. There would be decisions that were made, right, that did not align with the experience that I was having. And for me, that was very confusing. Because it's like, hey bro, like I hear what you saying, man. But that's not what's happening over here, you know, in my experience. And, you know, kind of like what I said earlier, you know, vision has always been a part of who I am. So I would see things before.
Right.
And you know what? These brothers know me. Anytime I ever had a vision about anything, I wrote it all down. Very great detail about exactly what I saw. Right? But I didn't trust that because I ain't know what that, you know, I ain't know what that was. Right? I was validating my sense of meaning and purpose. Like, if you do this, then this will happen. And it's like, well, I don't know about that. You know what I mean? And because I usually always be like, man, you don't never say nothing. You don't never say nothing. You got to say something. I'm like, well, maybe next time. Right? So that was a really big thing. Another one was resolving, you know, inner conflict and, you know, emotional immaturity. I'm the type of person, you know, I do get passionate about the things that I love, right? And sometimes I would, you know, I would express that in a certain type of way, but you know, I soon learned that those were more blockages than they were anything for me. You know what I mean? Because like, you know, I've always wanted to, if you want to say, obtain the spiritual status quo, whatever that is, right? I wanted to do that. But, you know, I just was caught up in the I was held captive by my senses. Right? I gave more leverage to a limited type of thinking, right? Which was contrary to, like, again, the experience that I was seeing. So, you know, there's a phrase, right? You know, my soul knew what my mind couldn't comprehend.
Right.
And if you ever been in that type of that space of awareness, right? It's like, you know. Everything is telling you that you know, right? But logically, you try to compute, or linearly, you try to rationalize these things in a way that makes sense. Right? But, you know, as I've learned, and even up until this point, right, the spiritual journey is many things, but it's not linear. It's not 1 + 1 is 3. But for somebody it might be. But for me, it's not linear for me. And I you know, I understand that now. You know, but back then I didn't. And those ideals, those times of expression, right? I really incurred some suffering. Right? I always got, you know, for a period of time, I got what I didn't want. And it was just like, listen, man, this ain't gonna work right here. Right? That doesn't work for your core energy blueprint, Malak. Okay. You're not structured to see things the way that people do. So don't try to force yourself in that lane. You know, that doesn't work for you. And you know, as I allowed myself to be detached from that anchor, right? I began to gain perception. You know, I began to integrate